Peter, great to talk with you. I want to first ask you about the president's tweet. President Donald Trump basically said it's unfair that Mario Draghi suggests stimulatory measures at a time when the currency is already falling against the dollar, that offers the European manufacturers an unfair advantage. What do you think about that kind?
First, I'm surprised that the President of the United States tweets on something which I think is quite normal communication of the President of the ECB, because the strategy of the ECB has always been very clear. We do that in the ECB for price stability reasons, and so the prices have been much weaker recently, and so I think the communication is really in line with a strategy which is well known, actually. Now, market reacted to this sort of clarification of, given the fact that news have not been too good on the inflation front. I think we should not exaggerate, the impact of the communication of today on the exchange rate. The moves have been relatively small and have to be put in perspective. It's also a lot which has been said by the President of the ECB was conditional about, further news. So I think we'll have to put it in perspective, I think.
Well, Mario Draghi said he's going to offer additional stimulus if the economic outlook doesn't improve.
Right.
Well, it certainly hasn't in the last few years that you've been the chief economist there. Is there any reason to expect that it will in the coming months?
I think things are improving on the wage inflation front, has been explained also in the latest data, by the way. If you look at the latest data on wages, I think it's positive. The question is that you have a lot of uncertainties on the external side, so you should not put the blame, on the ECB sort of policy when the international environment has deteriorated very much, also related to uncertainties related to trade. So you have to put the things right. So it is true that you got a sort of strange situation where there's a lot of uncertainties in international trade, the regime, and then you have a weakening of the European economy, which is very much depending on trade, and then you have a monetary policy communication related to that. So you have to put the sequence right. I think it would be very good to stabilize the international business environment. I think that would be the priority. And then the exchange rate issues are really a second order sort of issues.
What do you think about the first tool Mario Draghi could reach for? If the outlook doesn't improve, is a rate cut his first move?
I'm not at the ECB anymore.
You're an outsider, so you can tell us what you think.
Well, it's not so long time ago. I think in all the measures that have been taken by the ECB, actually, there was always an assessment of the combined effects, because each measure per se, will not have necessarily a very big impact. It's just the combination of these measures together and so you have to think very carefully about, what you do when time comes.
It seems like forward guidance hasn't had much of an impact lately.
That's not true. That's not true.
No?
No.
Where do you see it?
Well, you think about the last forward guidance announcement of the last Governing Council. Markets were somewhat disappointed because you had a number of, bad news, especially on the inflation front. The 5 years was not good, actually. And there was a little bit markets waiting for a signal from the ECB that if things, continue to deteriorate, they would do, what is necessary to, stimulate the economy. And that has been the communication of Mario Draghi. I think he clarified it today. Also talking about the symmetry in the inflation target, I think was quite useful also for markets. And you see that in market reactions. The currency developments are not the objective of the ECB, has never been. There are some side effect on the currency markets. They have been quite limited.
Of course, but he first said he wouldn't raise rates through the summer of 2019, then sometime in 2020. He could say 2050, and the 5 years would still be diving to the floor. Doesn't he have to do either an interest rate cut now or bring back quantitative easing?
No, I think what is very important is the optionality, to make the options more credible, I think, because markets, I am not sure the markets really say you need to act now, but the markets want to be reassured if the environment does not improve, do you have the necessary tools to do that? And that has been clarified, I think, by the President, and markets have reacted, I think, in a trustful way to that communication.
He talked about mitigation. Do you think we could see tiering? Would that work on a European level? The Swiss have tried it?
Yes, I think if the ECB would go further down with the interest rate, I think it would reconsider this tiering issue. So far, ECB has concluded that the negative rate would not, impair the transmission mechanism, the bank lending function of banks, actually. Now, if you go further negative, they will look back at that issue. I think Benoît Cœuré, my former colleague Benoît Cœuré, said it, in an interview recently.
Cœuré also said the biggest issues facing the European economy have been really in manufacturing. I thought it was interesting because I'm living in Germany. They make a lot of stuff. Manufacturing is big for them. Is it maybe a good idea to have a German ECB president following Mario Draghi? He steps down in just a few months.
I think the nationality should not matter at all.
It should not matter, but do you think it would?
Well, I mean, the personality, the skills, it matters. I mean, in Europe, these things matter, obviously. But I think what is really competence and good communication, I think that really matter. If you look at the ECB the last 20 years, because that has been the discussion, you have seen 3 presidents now, and I think there have been a lot of continuity, and the ECB Governing Council is not only the president. I'm sorry, but it's all the members, and that has been quite collegial, frankly.
I heard you talking about the continuity today as well. Do you think that would continue from Draghi to Weidmann?
Well, it's never similar, but I really trust that the institution can manage the continuity well. I really believe that. I mean, so I think it will be probably different, but the environment would also be different. So I'm very trustful in the institution.